the new Hyundai. Available platform.
Okay. Commissioner Abbott.
The broadcast of the special meeting of the Charter Commission will now begin.
Good evening. Welcome to this live broadcast of our virtual meeting. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. My name is Barry Clegg, and I am the chair of the Charter Commission. This meeting is now called to order, and I will ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Abbott?
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes. Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Garcia?
Present.
Commissioner Ginder?
Present.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Present.
Commissioner Kozak? Commissioner Mecci?
Present.
Commissioner Newborn? Excused. Commissioner Perry? Excused. Commissioner Rubenstein?
Present.
Commissioner Sandberg?
Present.
Commissioner Schwarzkopf? Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Kozak? Commissioner Schwarzkopf? Commission Chair Clegg?
Here,
There are 11 members present.
we have a quorum. We'll now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolis.mn.gov. The agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt?
So moved, Sandberg.
Is there a second?
Ginder, second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Commissioner Abbott?
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Kozak? Commissioner Mecci?
Aye.
Commissioner Perry? Commissioner Rubenstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Sandberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Schwarzkopf? Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg?
Aye.
There are 10 ayes.
That motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Next is the chair's report, and the only items I have to report are that in addition to this public hearing, we are holding another public hearing on Thursday, March 25th at 4:30 p.m. And we also welcome comments on the Charter Commission's webpage. There is a comment form that you can complete. And finally, you can also email cityclerk@minneapolismn.gov with any comments you have. And a reminder to our speakers tonight, this is a public hearing concerning the Charter Commission's government structure proposal related to an executive mayor and legislative council. This is not a public hearing related to the council's public safety proposal or to the council's rent control proposals. The next item on our agenda is the public hearing, considering a proposal to amend the city charter to address government structure, and it affects Article 1, Article 7, and Article 8 of the charter. At this point, I will open up the public hearing. So far, we have 18 speakers signed up to speak today. We'll be taking speakers in the order that they are registered. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the commission. We have a timer to help speakers monitor the use of their time, and you will hear a buzzer when your time is up. When you're called on to speak, press *6 to unmute your phone. Then please wait a moment after you press *6 for a recorded message that says you're unmuted before you begin speaking. The first speaker on our list is Steve Kramer. Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Thank you for moving this proposal forward and for providing this opportunity to comment. I am in support of the approach to strengthen the mayoral role as an executive with managerial authority and responsibility for city operations, and more clearly define the role of the city council as the legislative and policymaking body with an additional focus on constituent services. I come to this topic with a decade of service as a council member and also 2.5 years leading one of the charter-defined departments. Having played both of those roles, I found much to agree with in the very extensive research you did talking with city officials, which, from many of your comments, sharpened your collective resolve to develop and advance this proposal. I also think it's important to divorce this proposal from current office holders and candidates. Hard to do, I get that, but this initiative is not about them. It's about the right way to organize roles and responsibilities and authorities and accountabilities for our municipal government to function in a more effective way in years to come. Your report documented significant dysfunction in how the current system works. From my previous roles, I recognized, probably contributed to, and certainly experienced in my day that dysfunction. It's time to deal with it. I've said, and I've heard it said, Minneapolis succeeds as a city in spite of itself. I think this past year has demonstrated we can't always count on that as the outcome. Your proposal is not a silver bullet, but it certainly is one of the steps needed to help ensure our city is up to the challenges which lie ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Heather Magnuson.
Oh, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Heather Magnuson. I am calling to thank the Charter Commission for your hard work and for taking the time to hear public comment on the proposed charter amendment. I fully support the government structure amendment. As a Minneapolis resident for the past 17 years, I've never experienced a rogue city council like we have in the past couple of years, and it has become glaringly obvious there are simply too many cooks in the kitchen. These council members have zero interest in actually representing their constituents, but instead want to make a name for themselves by implementing poorly thought out plans without any evidence that they'll even result in positive change for the city. I fully support the idea of them taking on a legislative role and nothing more. My only complaint about the amendment is I wish it went further and found a way to reduce the number of council representatives to 7 or 8, which is the average number of council representatives in cities comparable to the size of Minneapolis. We're clearly a city in crisis, and having council representatives involved in any way, shape, or form in daily operations is dangerous, and I applaud the amendment for putting the power back with the mayor instead of with this reckless group of representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ellen Schmitz. Ellen Schmitz, press *6 to unmute. The next speaker is Robin Block. Robin Block. And we'll come back at the end The next speaker is Gregory Hessness. Gregory Hessness. The next speaker is Jennifer Wilson.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak tonight to the commission, and I appreciate the work that you do. So I just want to say that to start. I'm very concerned about this particular amendment, which I support and I think is much needed in city government to restructure the lines of communication and the lines of responsibility. But I am very concerned that it's going to be pitted against the city council's amendment with its request for a creation of a public safety department. And I strongly urge this committee to table a vote on this particular amendment and rewrite it so that it encompasses a change to the police department, so that this amendment is not set up as pitted against the other amendment and causing the voters who are very strongly in favor to some sort of reform of the police department to vote against this particular amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kathleen O'Brien. Kathleen
Hello?
O'Brien, go ahead. We can hear you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for your thorough study of city government. I support your charter amendment that identifies the basic problems in Minneapolis city government structure and proposes a logical, sensible remedy. It defines the mayor as an executive responsible for management and with authority to get the job done, a council with legislative and policy oversight and constituent services. This clear definition of roles and responsibilities will help the incumbents do their job and will attract capable service leaders to the offices of mayor and council. Minneapolis city government does not exist anywhere, government structure does not exist anywhere else. Its basis 100 years ago was as a diffused, decentralized government that's hard to understand and even harder to get things done. It's the opposite of efficient and effective. It is complex and costly. The mayor has a responsibility without authority, and the council exercises authority without responsibility. The department heads aren't sure who they report to because they get directions from the mayor and 13 council members. My comments aren't meant to criticize the current elected officials. They operate in the structure that exists. Your proposal is wise because it learns from other cities, the best practices that result in a just, safe, responsible, and more accountable and transparent city government. Now is the time to strengthen our city government and set it free to address the critical issues facing the people of Minneapolis. Thank you for your hard work, commitment to Minneapolis, and service to its people.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Sartorius. John Sartorius. Our next speaker is Colleen Kepler. Colleen Kepler.
Hi, Chair Clegg.
Hi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. I'd like to sincerely thank every member of this commission for dedicating their time and talent to the careful oversight of our city charter, especially in these times where leadership is tested. Minneapolis is sadly showing the weakness of our government structure, and I applaud you for addressing it. I wholeheartedly support the government structure amendment as written. The most critical portion of the amendment language relates to the police department. Right now, there are amendment proposals by this council and outside groups that intend to abolish the police department. We don't need to wait to see how this will work out. We are living it with close to 100 homicides and 600 shootings in the past 15 months. We have proven that there is no glory in a police-free future. The current police headcount of 638 is abysmally failing Minneapolis residents with lawlessness and anarchy, and I can't bear to imagine what would happen if that headcount goes lower. I want to see the police chief report directly to the mayor rather than adding him to staff who are at the mercy of 14 bosses and burying him under a new layer of bureaucracy reporting to the head of the Office of Violence Prevention. We need this government structure amendment, and we need it now more than ever, especially to cancel out the other dangerous amendments. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry. I understand that one of the previous speakers, Gregory Hessness, could not unmute his phone. The last 4 digits of his phone number are 7046. Can staff help unmute that number?
Mr. Chair, staff does not have the technical capacity to unmute the phones on the speaker's end. We need them to do that by pressing *6.
Keep trying, Mr. Hessness, and we'll come back at the end. Next speaker is Tony Scallon. Tony Scallon. The next speaker is Catherine Shreves. Catherine Shreves.
Can you?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank the Charter Commission because I understand you've spent 6 months studying city government structures and interviewing our city's department heads and former elected officials. And having lived in Minneapolis for 35 years, I know the structural change you're proposing is long overdue, more than 35 years overdue. A Minneapolis mayor will now, under your proposal, have executive authority as well as the responsibility for city operations and department heads. And the council's role is strengthened, I think, with the policy making by getting support from the city attorneys and the clerk's offices and the auditor's office to monitor the executive departments. So I think the proposal clarifies roles and it would make city government more accountable and help actually attract good people to work in the department. So while I'm very grateful, I respectfully request, and I think I've mentioned this to some of you before, that you consider 2 additional revisions. 1, eliminate the minimum funding provision for police. Removing it does not defund the police, and it does not invalidate the important and absolutely necessary role law enforcement plays in our city. This type of funding provision belongs in the city budget, not in the city's constitution, its charter. And second, I would really hope that you would consider changing the name of the police department to the Department of Public Safety, with the police division that reports to the mayor. People nationwide are asking for approaches to public safety that are broader than policing, and I'm well aware that the work of reimagining public safety in Minneapolis does not require a charter change to proceed. But I want voters to know that their concerns for a broader vision for public safety have been heard by this commission. And I want it to be clear to them that the distinction between this commission's proposal and the city council's or the Yes for Minneapolis petition is about the structure of government, not about reimagining public safety. And I think it's very important for this amendment to pass. So
I support your proposal, and I'm very grateful for your time and service, and thank you for your.
Our next speaker is Stephen Taylor. Stephen Taylor?
Yeah,
Go ahead, we can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, everyone's made some great points, so I'm not going to reiterate what other people have said. All I'd say is, I think this is a really good proposal, but I think another thing that we can do to increase accountability and is really just reduce the number of council members. 13 is way too many. 3 might be good. 5 is okay. 7 is maybe a bit too much. 13 is crazy because people do nothing. They add no value and they just cost the city money. So let's get rid of some of them and make larger wards and make them more accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Becca Thompson. Becca Thompson. The next speaker is Gabriel Risdall.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay, it's saying I'm no longer muted. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I want to just thank the commission for all the work that you guys have done, or that you all have done on this. I almost feel like you're a bolster against the city council right now, who is, I feel like, just way off track and way radical. I support this amendment, and I want to echo or lend my voice to what other people have said on this call. But I mainly just want to say thank you to all the commissioners for all the work that you've done, and that you continue to do to help and continue to make our city great. So thank you so much, and I support the amendment.
Thank you. The next speaker is either Aaron or Eric Dunn. Sorry, I can't make out the last letter. It's either Aaron or Eric Dunn.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I support this amendment fully. And having worked many years in a well-organized corporate environment, one thing I learned is that you need strong and very clear leadership. With our current structure, we have seen only confusion, delays, and some finger pointing. A strong mayor system would allow for mayoral candidates to run confidently on their vision for the city and for the Minneapolis Police Department. Currently, the mayor role is more symbolic and lacks the authority to fully implement a plan without having to influence or please a larger than necessary council that is not aligned with either the city or one another. I'm also strongly in favor of fully funding the Minneapolis Police Department and providing it with additional resources for recruiting, training, and expanding their community involvement and their ability to effectively respond to a variety of calls. So thank you for your work, and fully supported from me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen Forbes. Karen Forbes. Our next speaker is Sandy Colvin Roy. Sandy Colvin Roy. Our next speaker is Jeff Schneider. Jeff
Can you hear me?
Schneider. Yes,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. We can hear you.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
Good evening, Chair Clegg and Commission members. My name is Jeff Schneider, and I wish to enthusiastically support the proposed government structure charter amendment that at long last clarifies and simplifies the executive versus legislative roles of the mayor and city council. I speak as a recently retired city employee who worked in 5 different city departments over a 35-year career. I also speak as a long-term city resident who believes that city government can be a more effective and responsive contributor to the city's quality of life. Several of my jobs at the city involved providing financial analysis, policy research, or best practices examples for topics under consideration by the mayor and council. Our current city structure is clearly not a best practice. As with many staff, I struggle to navigate the muddied waters of diffused authority, especially when individual council members' priorities conflicted with the mayor's priorities or even with citywide priorities adopted by the full council. As noted in the work group's interviews with department heads, the current structure engenders confusion and sometimes fear among staff who can be buffeted between the mayor and one or more council members. Council committee chairs sometimes act as if they are de facto supervisors of departments that come under their committee purview, injecting themselves into many facets of administration and management. Also, this diffused authority exacts a significant cost and overall drag on the organization's ability to execute routine implementation tasks, which are often subject to formal or informal review by several council members, while staff seek to gain consensus among competing visions of how best to proceed. And as we have experienced over the last year, the city's ability to respond to crises is hampered by the need to touch many bases before decisions can be made. In conclusion, assigning clear boundaries between executive and legislative authority at the city is long overdue. The current organizational structure is an anachronistic legacy that results in the intermingling of executive, legislative, management, and oversight responsibilities with no clarity about which part of city government is in charge of which function. The proposed amendment will help the city do its work more effectively, more efficiently, and more transparently. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. There were a number of speakers signed up who weren't here when we called on them. Are any of them able to unmute and speak now? Please unmute and announce yourself.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, my name is Tony Scallon.
Please go ahead.
I am strongly in favor of the Charter Commission doing what they have to do to straighten out local government. I served on the city council and originally hadn't supported this, but things have gotten worse since. So anyway, I'm just calling to support the commission's opportunity to take care of the mismanagement of City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who had signed up or who had not signed up and wish to speak? Star
Yes,
6.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a member of the commission. I would like to speak.
The commission will have an opportunity to discuss this at a later date. This is a public hearing, Commissioner. So are there any other members of the public who have public comment at this time? Hearing none, I'll close today's public.
Mr. Chair, it's Casey. Before you close that off, I know there may be some who are still on the line. It may be that callers are inadvertently muting their own device. They don't need to mute their device, or they may hear us say unmute yourself and be muting their device. The phone itself, the device does not need to be muted. We mute them.
They're closing it down, but try that number again with that ID number.
And if they just press *6, that unmutes them in our system. So I just wanted to put that out there that it may be that someone has inadvertently muted their device and they don't need to do that. When they call in, we mute them within the system, and then all they need to do is press *6 and wait a bit. There is a recording that will let them know when they've been taken off of the muting.
Thank you, Casey. Carl, so did everyone hear that? If you're on your smartphone and you've pressed mute, you don't need to do that. So press to unmute and then press *6, and you will be unmuted on our call. So we'll give another 30 seconds for anybody to try that. I'm not hearing anybody. I'll ask one more time if there are any speakers on the line. Just a quick reminder that if you weren't able to speak today or weren't prepared to speak today, we will have another public hearing next Thursday, March 25th at 4:30 p.m.
Mr. Chairman,
Seeing no
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cohen, as I said, you will have an opportunity to speak at a Charter Commission meeting. This is public commentary only. With that, we've concluded all business to come before the Charter Commission, and without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Kozak.
Oh, I just wanted to be recorded as present. I had computer problems early on. If
You will be recorded as president, and we stand adjourned.
I
Thank you.
think it would have been appropriate